Rosemary is one of the most popular versatile herbs that you can grow in your garden. And because it's perennial, you can enjoy fresh rosemary year round. However, there are certain recipes that do call for dry rosemary in particular. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 easiest ways to dry and preserve your rosemary. So first up, if you have your pruning shears, let's go ahead and harvest the rosemary. Now harvesting the rosemary is the same for all 4 methods. So let's go ahead and get it. Now guys, if you're taking a significant amount of branches off, you'll need to start with a large, well-established mother plant. Anything smaller, and you can actually run the risk of killing the plant. Harvesting the rosemary sprigs is easy. Simply select new shoots, and using a sharp pair of pruners, cut the branches about 8 inches long. You want to try and cut all your branches the same length. Avoid using branches that have gone to flower, as well as stems that are old and past their prime. Drying method number 1 is easy and simply involves bundling your rosemary together with string or a twist tie, and then hanging upside down in a dry place like you would your garlic. This can be in a shed, a room in your house, or even your garage. Method number 2 is even easier. Simply pull all the needle-like leaves from your rosemary branches and spread them evenly on a plate or a piece of paper. Then place them in a sunny windowsill and wait a week or more for them to dry out. Method number 3 is oven drying. Place your rosemary branches on a cookie or baking sheet, spaced evenly and not overlapping. Set the temperature to 150 or 175 Fahrenheit, whichever is the lowest setting on your oven. Bake for 2 hours or less, checking the branches every 20 minutes or so for the desired brittleness. Do not overcook. The final method is my personal favorite, and in my opinion, provides the best results. Using your food dehydrator, space out the rosemary on one of the drying trays, much like you did for the oven method. Set the temperature and time according to your dehydrator manual, which is usually around 120 Fahrenheit for 4 hours. I find using the dehydrator provides the most even drying, as well removes the threat of burning or simply taking too long and going moldy. Now that you've dried your rosemary, it's time to store it. I like to remove the needles from the stem and store in small jars or spice containers. However, you can also store the rosemary in small sealable bags equally as well. Store the dried rosemary for up to 9 months, after which simply start a new batch. So that's it for today, guys. The few takeaways from this video: rosemary is a perennial. You can harvest it for drying year round. However, just be aware that the act of cutting those stems off will cause the mother plant to branch out. So you need to take your rosemary cuttings either when the plant is dormant or 6 to 8 weeks before the first frost. Also, when you're cutting your rosemary stems, you want them to be about 8 inches long, and you want to use the fresh shoots, avoiding the shoots that are flowering and the shoots that are old. Using those shoots may provide bitter results. Also, when drying and preserving your rosemary, if the weather is cold and wet outside, you're going to want to use either the oven method or the dehydrator method. When there's too much moisture in the air and when the temperatures are insufficient, drying that rosemary could simply take too long and provide poor results. As always, guys, leave any questions or comments down below. Are you drying rosemary? Are you drying all your herbs? When I think of fall, I always think of those really powerful seasonings, like rosemary and thyme, and dried cilantro, things like that. So it's a perfect time to start stockpiling that spice rack. Click subscribe if you haven't already. For those of you that have, I really do appreciate the support. And I'll see you next time.